In English, huh? We are back to English, okay?
No problem.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do this.
Okay.
Woo!
Go ahead.
Welcome to the Cheap Ass Podcast
where we talk about life, love, and everything in between.
with little to no equipment.
This is the Cheap Ass Show.
Hey guys, welcome to the third episode of the Cheap Ass Podcast. You know me,
Hi, guys.
Thomas, and my co-host.
I'm still François, guys. Happy to see you guys again.
Guys, today we're interviewing Coline.
Hi. Hi, guys.
So yeah, I mean, like always, I think few questions, a small talk, and yeah, how have you been, François, since the last time?
Since last time, I had a lot of time to work on myself, become a better person, a better version of myself. And part of that process is doing more podcasts like these and learning about new, interesting things with very fascinating guests. So please, Coline, we want to learn about you now. Tell us about yourself. Introduce yourself. Who are you?
Good question. I'm Coline. I am French, contrary to popular belief. We're a very French connection team here today. So yeah, what can I tell you about myself?
Well, where are you from? Why is your name Coline? What are you doing in Rome? You know, all this kind of stuff. We want to know. Our listeners want to know.
Well, I am from Reims, the Champagne area in France. Sounds fancy, really isn't. Great city, however, best city on earth. But, you know, life happens and then you end up in Rome. So, for me, very much coming to Rome was very much related to work and just, you know, taking an opportunity. Sometimes you have, you know, a train that passes that you really need to catch. And I feel like for me, the Rome train was definitely a train I wanted to get on. And kind of got there by chance. But I'm still very much French, honestly, forever.
Can you remind us and our viewers and our listeners, how did we meet? How did Coline and I meet?
Actually, this is going to be very, I don't know if you were planning on hiding our actual ages, but if we tell this story, I think everyone's going to be, you know, it's going to be pretty obvious. Like millennials, we met on Facebook a year ago when I got to Rome. Got there by myself, knew no one basically. So I went on Facebook like a good old millennial and actually wrote a post on French people in Rome asking, where do people party in Rome? And actually this post was a hit. 3 of my best friends now in Rome, I met through that single post. So François responded very kindly, and he's a bit of a party animal. And so basically he gave some names, and then we just wrote to each other, and we actually met here in this very apartment, this very studio, the first time we met.
Could you remind us what your strategy was with inviting, because I remember you met another guy, and there was something about, what was that whole story?
Right. So I guess it's a very girl thing that when you get to a place and you're by yourself, you want to meet people, but you also want to ensure that you don't meet crazy people and don't end up like in someone's cave for like just out of poor decision making.
That sounds fun in some circumstances.
Sorry. But no shade to you, François. It's just you're a girl. You get some guys that write to you, and basically on this post on that specific day, 2 guys had written to me and proposed that we met. So François proposed that he was throwing a party at his apartment, so he just proposed that we meet there. And there was this other guy whom I had not met before either, and basically he also wanted to meet that very night. And so my reflection was, what are the chances that these 2 individuals are equally crazy? So I went with this guy. I met the other guy in front of your apartment door. We actually met there. And I told myself, look, if Francois is batshit crazy, I can always stay with people. And if people is batshit crazy, I can always stay with Francois. And actually both became like great friends of mine. So, take chances. But always safety first.
Yeah, I think it's things that we are not that used to as guys.
Right.
Me and Francois. I know Maya, the guest from the last time, also had I wouldn't say bad experiences on that really bad experiences, but when she arrived in Rome, she put herself on Bumble friend, and also on like Tinder, but always saying, I just look for friends.
Okay.
I'm just look for people to hang out with, and no, I don't look for love. And some of the people didn't seem to quite understand. Like, they were saying, oh yeah, of course, don't worry. And once they were like maybe sometimes trying some things, or when she was like again like saying, oh no, I don't want nothing like emotionally or sentimentally related to that, the guy weren't responding after the first day, after the first appointment to just meet people. So yeah, it's always
it's like every single girl you're gonna interview is gonna have that sort of story in a way, not necessarily in a bad way. It's just it happens. You just got to be aware of it and just kind of serve the way in a way that serves you best. And I remember, for instance, when I got here the first time, I barely spoke any Italian, and all of us here living here, we all know how that kind of impairs getting the full Rome experience. And so it's like a fun way to meet people and to learn Italian would be to do some kind of tandem. So I actually registered on this app that was like meant initially to find people to tandem with. So I could propose like French and English, and in exchange they would speak Italian to me. And it turns out, like, if you're a girl, also you have to put a picture. So you are a girl, you put a picture, you're very clearly a girl. Guys are gonna like jump on the occasion to like propose the weirdest shit that has nothing to do with learning a language. Like literally nothing. I think you get more dick pics on the tandem apps that you get on like Bumble or something right off the bat.
Reverse shout out to those guys. Yeah, we don't like those guys. Yeah.
I think that's one when I planned that trip to go to Italy and stuff. A lot of people told me, "Hey, go on couch surfing."
Oof.
I don't know if it's the thing, and it was the first time I kind of felt weird on the app like that, because I was talking with some guys to have like apartments to just stay, because the idea is just to stay at them, not to fuck with them or like kiss them or having sex relations.
Making babies.
Yeah, making babies. Yeah, and the guys were like, first on the photos, like for couch surfing, they were like on always shirtless. I don't see the point. Like, it's so weird. And saying like the description was so weird and stuff like that. And I don't know. I was like, no, I don't want to sleep at that guy place. It's crazy. And that was the time where I wanted to sleep at a girl house. In couch surfing, to also feel safe myself.
Right.
I mean, to be sure that nothing will happen also to me. And it's it's a weird feeling, to be honest. And as you said, every girl we met, we could do 2 hours or 3 hours of podcast just about it, I think, on
Definitely
weird stories and yeah. So what's your age? Because okay, so
shit. Here
guys,
we go.
I have to be honest. Like Francois told me, hey man, I think I have a really good guest we could have on the show, on the Cheap Ass show. And I was like, okay, well, bring it on. And he was like, she's really interesting person, but I never met her. And I was completely okay. I trust my guy, so if he said she's interesting, that she's interesting. And I mean, I like the beginning of the podcast, so I guess she really is. And so I don't know her that much, so I'm also kind of learning how to meet her also at the same time as you guys, same time as the listeners.
You're a very trustworthy guy, Francois, apparently. Look, I have to come clean. I am turning 30 this year. Shit. Yeah. Scary. Big 30.
How do you feel about that?
Oh God.
Is it as bad as people make it up to be?
I'm not really sure. It actually depends on where you are with your life when you're about to hit like the big 30. Because I guess it's very much related to what society expects you to have achieved by the time you turn 30. But it's also a weird age because like half your friends are doing MDMA in random people's basements and the other half are like touring Europe with their bicycles and their 2 kids. And you're just like navigating between these 2 worlds and you're like, I'm just going to try and do what I want to do, which is neither of these things entirely, but you know, maybe a little bit of both. And it's just a weird age. But yeah, I mean, for a girl, I think it's very much related also to turning 30, and then you get the, you know, at every family encounter, you get the weird look for grandma and grandpa that are like, so when are you planning to procreate? And you're like, oof, tough one, grandpa. Like, I don't know. But otherwise, it's a good age, I think. It's a good age for people in general. You know yourself a little bit more when you turn 30, hopefully, if you've done the work. Gotta do the work. But yeah, it's the age where you can finally enjoy everything that you've worked for. In your 20s, you're like on survival mode. You have to get a diploma, get a job, buy the apartment, find a cute guy, blah, 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 do all these things. And then when you reach like closer to 30, you're like, I know that I can have all these things. Do I really want them? Yes or no? And then you remove some of them. For instance, like, who knows, the boyfriend, the house, the job, you reinvent yourself, but knowing exactly that you've done the work, you've achieved the objectives that you had when you were 18 or like 13 and writing in your journal, like, oh, by the time I'm 27, I want to be married. Screw this. But actually it's not that bad. It doesn't really matter if your teenage dreams don't come true, because along the way you make new dreams, you achieve them, and then you're like, now I can finally enjoy the fruits of my sweat and blood and tears. So it's a good age, I would say.
So you're saying that there's not that much in between, like at 30s, 35, like in that age of becoming 30, there's not much in between having a family and doing drugs in the basement. Like I don't know
Twisting
that
my words,
because you take example of a lot of like your, for example, co-students, people you used to study with, and people from your class, or
well, it actually depends, because depending on where you study and what you do, it's just tendentially the people you study with, especially if you do long studies, people are tendentially going to be on the same rhythm as you. Like, you graduate, you're 25, so you have absolutely no intention on, you know, settling down by the time you're 27, because you've just exited this part of your life where you're a student, you're enjoying the student life, and then you start working. You don't want to settle right. Some people want to, but a lot of times what I've seen with friends from engineering school is that most of us are not at all on that, you know, in that mindset of settling, having a family, and so on and so forth. But then if you take like middle school or high school friends who have not necessarily taken the same path as you in terms of studies, maybe they started working, they were like 19. So of course they've done the 10 years of recklessness of, you know, partying, traveling, enjoying the world and enjoying their youth, kind of. And these people tendentially have kids earlier, they settle down, and they kind of find a place where they want to be, which is an absolutely acceptable way of living. It's just not necessarily what I would like for myself. That's pretty much it.
Do you feel any pressure by society to settle down and apart from your grandparents, like
Right.
from, do you feel,
Classic.
to maybe, because we've enjoyed our fair share of partying in Rome, and it's not a secret.
Right.
It's a fun activity, but some people might think that a 30-year-old should not be partying, going to techno parties and stuff. Do you feel any
You
pressure?
just threw me under the bus,
No,
Francois.
I'm in the same.
Jesus
I'm in the same under the same bus as well.
Right. I know. Well, you kind of do have this pressure of society, but I think we're in an era where we're trying to very much deconstruct that. And, bad habits die hard. Like, I think society is evolving, but yourself, you're kind of like still in this mindset. I guess that's how we were brought up as well. Like, I think we're a generation where when we're kids, our parents were like, take the baccalaureate. If they propose you a long-term contract, say yes and shut your mouth, because it's already a privilege. And we kind of grew up with that in mind, saying, like, the world is coming to an end, so you have to have the security, and this is the only way you can enjoy your life. So we have, I think, a lot of the decisions we've made growing up were very much linked to that. And then very much linked to that as well is you're turning 30, your eggs are rotting as we speak, and you're just like, well, yeah, but it's more and more accepted, especially for women now, to have kids much later or to decide not to have any at all. It's just you have to accept that as a person. You're like, what do I really want to do?
Maybe the question is, do you want to have kids at one point? I mean, if you want to answer it, maybe you don't know it also. I mean, that's...
No pressure.
Yeah, again, yeah.
Actually, it's a pretty tough question because I'm a firm believer in like science and biology, and I think there is a very hormonal response to these kind of questions. I never wanted kids, like for as long as I can remember, I never wanted any. And like 2 years ago, I just woke up one morning and I was like, oh shit. And then I was, a bit confused. Like, is it an actual like wish that I have? Is it just like the hormones speaking? Is it, and then you kind of go on this path when you ask yourself, what do I want to do with my life? And if I want kids, do I want them for the good reason? I'm like, do I want kids because I need someone to, down the line probably change my diaper when I'm in a nursing home? Or do I want kids because I want to be fulfilled as a person? And this is a way to reach that. Honestly, I don't have an answer right now. I don't.
Do you want kids, Francois? That's the question, because we already had a discussion with Maya and we didn't talk about what we want. You and me. I mean, not together, but yeah.
I'll answer first and you'll answer second. Or third, actually. No, I've never really been into the idea of having kids. But then now what you're saying is scaring me, because I'm maybe one day I'm going to wake up and my whole life idea of having kids is going to change. No, I don't think I want any kids. I was seriously considering getting a vasectomy quite early on into my adult life. I realize it's not maybe the best idea, but I think if I ever had kids, I would never make one myself. I would necessarily either adopt or maybe have foster kids. Because if you think about it, the only difference between making your own kid and adopting is the fact that it is your biological kid.
Right.
Otherwise, it's essentially the same thing. Plus all the benefits of adopting a kid, taking a kid out of misery. It's probably cheaper in like the first few. if you're saving for the cost for raising a kid for the first year or two of their life, or maybe 5, that's a lot of money. As I always say, my parents estimated that they spent over 10,000 euros in diapers alone for my 4 siblings and I. So, I just like the idea of taking a kid out of a potentially miserable life instead of making a new kid who could turn out to be an asshole as well. Who could turn out to become a negative person for the world. So yeah, I would definitely adopt. So if you plan to get married with me, just know this.
Shout out to all the single ladies out there.
Yeah, and thank you for getting us cancelled, Francois.
All right.
But no, it's really interesting what you said about the hormone thing. I never read anything about it, but there's Spinoza,
Right.
philosopher, who writes about, not directly that, but he speaks about the conatus. I don't know if you know the word. At least in French, is write it conatus, like pronounced conatus, is the how could I define that in English? Is the way, the fact that we as human beings, but as also animals, we want to live more, we
Right.
want to survive. And so, for example, eating, it's part of that thing. It's like trying to survive.
Right.
Fighting, or like running away, or hide yourself in a situation of danger. And he also puts the fact of having sex and making kids of the, you want to make the human race survive. So it's
Of course.
larger than you. And so that's funny because, of course, every species was created to like continue to exist. But so yeah, it might be something like that with hormonal thing. But I think also pressure, because you said
Of
it was
course.
2 years ago that you wake up like
Yeah,
that.
more or less. Yeah, a little bit more maybe.
It's also sadly where I think people put even more pressure. I mean, you had less pressure at 26 than at 28, and
Right.
then now at 30. So it's also a thing where sometimes it's always complicated to know what is like in you and what is created by society. And I think a lot is created by society. But
For sure.
yeah, it's a scary thing to.
No, but actually, the people that know me know that I'm no expert in anything, but I know a lot of random fun facts, or at least I think so. And I'm going to drop a fun fact on you. Actually related to what you said about, it's not about the survival of the individual, it's about the survival of the species entirely. And actually, if you look at the evolution of the human race, it turns out if you want to make the species survive, since you need 2 parents, you need at least 2 kids, which means that nature will find a way to ensure that each couple has at least 2 kids. Otherwise, you decrease organically the number of people progressively. And one way to do that, since apparently, and it's very apparently, it's like, you know, bar level biology right now, but maybe it could make sense. Women tendentially have this, I think, biological, fortunately or unfortunately, we have this biological need somehow to have kids, which is a little bit less true for men. So tendentially throughout evolution, you will see that the first kid in a family is more likely to resemble the dad, because then the dad, seeing as it has made a mini him, is more likely to want to make a second one. A very random fact. Don't ask me where I read that. Don't ask me where it's from. It's just saying it does make kind of sense. You know what I mean?
But again, for now, it's not confirmed. No. I mean, it do make sense and might be possible, but yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
But
Just,
that's a cool way of explaining it, and that's might be something who is we should take a look at that. Maybe next podcast we have more information about it.
You can look around and see within your friends like that have a couple siblings, and then typically the first sibling to be born, you can ask them, do you resemble, but not necessarily physically, it can be also very much like behavioral. Do you resemble your dad or your mom? And I think more than half of the time you'll have someone say, I look more like my dad. And it's extremely true for me. I have 2 little brothers. I am my dad. And if you look around and ask your friends, like, our very dear camera tech confirms that it's also true for her.
My older sister looks just like my dad.
See? My God, did we
I kind of look like my dad
prove
too. Yeah.
Oh, look at this.
I'm the oldest son as well. Yeah.
And
There you go.
My big brother more like my dad than I am like my dad.
Jesus Christ. Okay, so it is not statistically relevant, but
Not-
it's kind of.
It's pretty cool, yeah. But also, it's fun you mentioned that we mentioned both of us that we trying to keep the human race survive. I mean, the species,
Right.
and like every species does that. It's funny because with all the bullshit we did in the world, it's maybe the first time in history where a species has to make less kids to survive instead of making
Right.
more. It's I think the first time it arrived, or one of the first time maybe. When
That's
you look at
true.
it.
The more, I mean, if you're very worried about your footprint on this planet, the best thing you could do is not have kids, honestly, and then stop, taking the plane to go next door and all these kind of things. But like the best thing you can do is not having kids. And I think it's more and more a question for people our generation as well. Our parents' generation did not give a crap. I mean, you've seen the results. They didn't give a crap about the impact of having a kid on the planet. But now, more and more so, if you ask people why don't you want to have kids, a lot of them will tell you, you know what, that's the best thing I can do for the planet. So it's not anymore a very selfish thing.
Yeah, I think yeah, the literature, the scientific literature on this topic is not that black and white. Indeed, having a kid has a huge impact on our planet and on the environment. But the truth is that many of our countries, the countries that we're talking about, Germany, France, Japan, etc., these countries have a population decline, which means that we need to have more kids, actually. And we actually, in some sense, according to what I've seen on YouTube, we're shifting the responsibility of making kids to countries from which people emigrate to our countries.
Right.
So it's not that black and white, and
True.
I don't think we're qualified enough to talk about this, but anyway, indeed, lots of kids talk, and it's a very important part of our lives. But speaking of parts of our lives, could we go back to an earlier part of your life? Because I've heard some details here and there, and I don't know if you don't want to talk about it, but you're very self-confident. You seem very self-confident. You're very accomplished, and you've moved all around the world. You have a very prestigious job. But where did it all come from? Who were you when you were, I don't know, a teenager? Because maybe you had a life that made you have to become independent in a way. Could you tell us more about your early, teens or early adulthood?
You read right through me, Francois. No, actually, it's probably it shows like on the way I'm dressed and the way I am. As a teen, I was a goth, right? No shame, a little bit. No shame.
Shout out to all the goths out there.
Yes.
Goths out there. Sorry.
But it's also like I was a goth when it was cool. No, it wasn't really cool, but like it was a little bit less marginal than right now, I would say. So yeah, no regrets. I still have parts of that in me. Like I will very happily go to my 9 to 6 job listening to Slipknot, but it's just yeah, what can I tell you about teenage me? Thank you for saying I look self-confidence. It's an amazing mask I put on every morning, I think, like every one of us. Again, I think, if you have a lot of anxiety, like I do, you kind of look for, since you're always afraid of the future, you're always afraid of how you're going to respond to certain situations, you tendentially make decisions that are going to build some kind of like security net for you. And I think every decision that I've made so far has been really much related to building a safety net. Finding a job, having a good diploma. I mean, if you want a good job, you have to have a good diploma. We're not very deconstructed, guys, but I mean, it's how we were brought up. If you want to have a good diploma, you have to be good at school. So it's all about all these things. Then if you want to, meet people and be, more open-minded. You have to travel the world. If you want to travel the world, you have to speak multiple languages. If you want to speak multiple languages, you have to work on it. So it's always been like kind of like securing all of this. So yeah, when I was a teenager, the first like big step into that, apart from, you know, being, you know, academically good, was actually moving to the US. When I was 15, I did a year like kind of like Erasmus, but when you're in high school. So yeah, very Midwestern accent probably. Chicago. So I did live in Chicago or at least in the suburb, for a year in my sophomore year. So that was a crazy experience as well. Europe is the shit, you guys. When you've seen that grass is not greener on the other side, you realize that Europe is the bomb. It's amazing. But it was not a bad experience at all. Like, now I speak English. It opened a lot of doors for me. Now I have a job like that requires me anyway to speak a certain level of English. So it's just, all of this is, you know, all of this happens for a reason. So basically, I moved there, went to school there, and, you know, met people and so on and so forth. Like, I could speak about this experience for 2 hours. It all in all, not a great experience, but no regrets, because it opened a lot of doors afterwards for me. And I came back from this experience knowing what I wanted to be in terms of, you know, career. I left there not really knowing. You're a sophomore, you don't really know, but you kind of have to make a decision already in France, because sophomore year, you have to choose a path, like literature at the time, where all this shit, literature, science, or, you know, humanities. And then you have to choose a specific field in there. When I came back from the US, I knew that I wanted to do chemistry, because I had an amazing chemistry teacher back there. Then I pursued it, but changed path anyway. It's not something that just like stamps you forever. Whatever you decide to choose to study, you can always reinvent yourself afterwards. But yeah, so in that way, it was a very good experience to kind of like be much more open-minded, much more mature, and you come back like pretty sure of what you want to do. So I think that was a good experience all in all. Yeah.
It's funny because traveling in general kind of gives you, I mean, last time we talked a lot about like what is maturity in the last podcast with Maya, but overall, kind of for everybody, I think traveling it gives you, from all the different definition you have of maturity out there, traveling improves your maturity in all those fields, all those things, whether you think it's from just becoming older, whether you think it's being ready to make more sacrifices, whether you think it's just being older. It's always traveling makes you feel more experienced, and so I think experience kind of give maturity. To really put it in like 2 or 3 words, and traveling is the best way of just experience it. So yeah, as 100%. You said, shout out to Europe. I think really, we're really happy to be there. No, really, I mean, it's a wonderful place to live, really.
And it's like, I mean, it's the beauty of Europe as well, is that you have kind of the proximity of like a lot of different cultures. You know, like, we're all French, we live here in Italy, like French and Italians are a bit cousins, like we have this like kind of love-hate relationship, I guess. But it's, anyway, you get like, you experience a new culture, a new language, and you're not actually that far from home. It's not like, it's not the same sacrifice in a way moving to Rome than it is moving to Australia. Also because now everyone knows we're old, so our parents are not, you know, getting any younger, our grandparents are not getting any younger, and you kind of have that reflection as well, where like, if I move to Australia, how long would it take me to come back should there be some kind of emergency? That should not absolutely be a reason to not travel. But here in Europe, the beauty of it is that it's easy because we have, you know, the French passport that kind of opens you anyway already access to a lot of different places. Apart from all the administrative bullshit that you have to go through anyway, it's Europe. You have a lot of agreements between the countries that, you know, kind of ease the process a little bit. You know, you can always go back home. It's like, Europe is awesome. It has history, it has culture, it has a lot of different people. It's not like if you drive 10 hours like in one direction, you will have crossed like 7 countries and met a billion different people. And tendentially, one of the example is like, I remember taking a bus from Chicago to Washington, D.C., and for like 11 hours, it was cornfield. For 11 hours of cornfield. Like 11 hours in France, you can go to Lille from Lille to Marseille, and probably another hour of driving around. Very different.
Easy, yeah. It's really interesting that you talk about that thing of being away from home and the family. I know my grandma is still in Romania now, and we had before my grandpa died, he was there also, and yeah, in some ways was better that it's like a 2 hours flight.
Right.
And we had the money to go, because some people also don't have the money, so now we try to manage to go one member of the family every 4 to 5 months, which is pretty okay when you consider it's another country. And as you said, there's a lot of no visa, fast plane, but still it's you know, my parents, so they might want to live in Romania to end their days there.
Okay.
And it's a thing that I'm today asking them not to do. I mean, my dad more than my mom. My mom wants to stay in France, but my dad, it's a thing I'm asking right now not to do, because I know even though it's simpler than being in Australia or in the US, it's still like, I mean, compared to just taking a train or being able to drive, and it's funny that we are scared so early. I don't know how old are your parents, if they're like in good condition, but my parents are pretty young, I would guess. I mean, from a death age, they're stand
Pretty
on
far
good.
away from death.
Yeah, they're really okay, and they're in pretty good health. So, but still, it's something I already have. Now that I'm not in France anymore, and I'm in Rome, I might move to Munich next year, and then we'll see what happens. I'm less and less stressed by that, because I know either way I won't be in France for the rest of my life, that's for sure, even though I want to die in Paris. And yeah, I want to die there. I don't know why I want to die in Paris, that's for sure.
I think it's 'cause on your Wikipedia page you want it to be written, died in Paris. I get it.
Yeah, kind of. And shout out to Paris, by the way. And no, so, but yeah, it's funny that we have that, we are scared that early in the process of being far away from our parents, and I know it's my mind from the beginning. Like, I don't want to have to take too long if there's a problem with them.
Right.
It's, when my grandpa was sick, it was my mom had to do in 1 month, she had to do like 2 or 3 back and forth to Romania. It was awful, and we have the money at the time. Not every family has. I'm not sure I will have the money also to go there to visit them as often. Like, I hope, but who knows? Maybe I won't be able to travel as much as they did. So
Sure.
yeah.
It's just, I guess, I mean, it's a very privileged conversation, because it means that you have your family as a pillar in your life that you can like rely on. And if you have this kind of thoughts, I guess it means that you were brought up in a pretty healthy family, emotionally speaking as well. I mean, if you scratch the dirt for any family, you're going to find something. But still, having them in the back of your mind kind of already is something to be, you know, happy about, because it means that they do matter, and they have, you know, you still have them in your heart, whatever the hardships you had to go through. So it's a very privileged conversation. But anyway, if you have that in your life, and you use your family as one of the main pillars that you have in your life, you want to find a way to always have that. And I think it's very much also a conversation that you have. We're circling back, but when you think of having kids, and I know my dad is always telling me, like, look, it's nice that you're in Italy and everything, but it would be nice if you could find a French guy in Italy. That way, when you guys have kids, I won't have to travel so far. Look, how do I put it nicely? I don't give a shit. Like, I will meet whoever I meet, and then, I mean, I would actually much rather have bilingual kids. I don't know, weird fetish, I guess.
No, it totally makes sense.
So it's
I get
not
it,
a
I get
kink or anything, but it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I just have a little snippet of information I think is interesting, and it changed my perspective on this whole thing about being away from your family, because we often think of time in terms of years.
Right.
Thinking let's assume our parents are in their mid 50s.
Right.
And let's hope they're going to live until like 85. That's maybe 30 extra years. And you're thinking, oh, I have 30 extra years with my parents. But actually, if you see them twice a year, that's times 30. That's only 60 more times in total in your whole life. You'll see your parents again.
Right.
Not 30 years. 60 times.
Yeah, it's 30 Christmases, it's
yeah, exactly.
30 birthdays, it's like,
So
you
it's
know,
not that,
time flies.
It's not, yeah. So yeah, just maybe think of time and distance in that way, and it might make you reevaluate your priorities in life, and it definitely has made me reevaluate mine in some ways. Yeah.
This got deep really fast. Shit.
It
is.
You want to say something? Or?
Go ahead.
It's really interesting because I had a sad discussion with a friend of mine. Her grandma died. Oh no, her grandpa just started to be sick. He has a cancer now, and when her dad realized that, he made the same math in his head. He said, "Fuck! I mean, now he has a cancer. He's already 70 or 80, so maybe 5 years maximum or 10. But I don't know. Nobody knows. It's like, yeah, if I still continue to only go there once or twice a year, it's like 10 times. I've seen my parents, my granddad, my dad. I will see him for just 10 times, and I really love that guy. He's a friend of my parents also, and I work with him on in Neve, a French company on fashion weeks. Shout out to Neve, and he's a hard worker guy, really. I love him, and now every time he has a chance, he take a 9-hour bus to Germany, and he goes see his grandparents, because he doesn't want to see them 10 times, but he wants to see them like 50 times or 100 times before they. And yeah, it's just, I think you want to live also, as you said, we want to live also, and that, when you have 5 weeks, I don't know how much holidays do you have per year, but when you have 5 or 6 weeks per year, it's complicated to give 2 times. I mean, 2 weeks, you should do it, but it's also complicated to give 2 weeks to your parents and then have 2 weeks less of just staying at home and doing nothing, or doing the big trip you plan to go in Asia for like a 1 month and a half, or do that. Yeah, time is a big problem, guys.
It is.
I'm scared now. Thanks.
No problem. That's what I do. No, but it's just, I guess it's also a thing when you're in your like late 20s. Life gets in the way, like you've probably experienced it, where you want to see some friends and they're like, oh yeah, let me check my calendar, I'm available in 32 business days. Will that do? You're like, we used to live next door. Like, I used to knock on your door in my pajamas and we would just hang out for no reason. And now you kind of have to plan. And what is true with your friends is also true with with your family, because at the end of the day, they also have a life going on. It's not like they're retired. They also work their asses off. We work our asses off. We're here. We also want to enjoy, Rome. It's not like you want to hop on a plane back to France every weekend, because otherwise, what the fuck is the point in living abroad? And especially right now in Rome, it's awesome. You probably can tell we're very greasy from the, tea area, because it's hot as fuck. So it's just, it's nice out. There are a lot of festivals, concerts, a lot of events that you don't want to miss out on. You don't want to miss out on life, but also you don't want to, have regrets. And I think a hard thing also when you get to your late 20s, early 30s is like, you see your parents progressively aging. And comes a time where you're like, shit, like when I was born, my grandparents were at the age that they are right now, like in their late 50s, early 60s. And you're like, they could be grandparents. And I still feel like if I got pregnant, that would be a teen pregnancy. And I'm like 30. So it's just, it's something to, there is a generational gap anyway in how we live our lives, but it's just, nonetheless, time catches on, and you just have to decide what your priorities are, simply.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But just it's really complicated. I'm also in a phase where I think we have time a lot. Like
Okay.
and yourself included. I'm younger. For those who don't remember, I'm 22. François is 27, and you're 29. And for a long time I was stressed. Time stressed me. Even when I was younger, when I was only 20 or 21, I was stressed. I was stressed to die. I was really afraid to die. Like really, but not in a way of dying because of somebody shoots at me or kill me, or like in a plane. I was scared of the idea of dying itself, and that life is limited. But now I met so many people. I did so many things in 1 year that I feel like the only thing I know I want to do, that all my years I'll look like this year,
Right.
like it feels like 5 years of living. And so, yeah, you meet so much people with the life we decided to live. You also, by moving and meeting other people, asking on Facebook who want to meet, you definitely meet more people. But it's so complicated also. I was talking with a friend 5 minutes before coming, who's from London, and I met him. It's so weird because we are really close to each other, I feel like. How we talk, how we love each other, but he's not here. And I never had a friendship like that. My friend, as you said, were always in the same street or like 2 metro stations away from me. And it's scary. Also, I met a guy, Owen. You met him just a bit. Crazy good guy. Paloma also, shout out to them. They were like guests at the hostel. And now Owen is in Jordan. And as you know, yesterday Iran bombed Israel, and so we were really scared for him, me and another friend, because we love him a lot. And it's scary because at the same time there's a gap generation. There's a big gap between our generation with our parents, but the world we live in, with wars, with climate change, we're gonna have to continue to make hard decisions, and we'll have bad experiences. That's the weird part of it. We think like, oh, we're having kids later, we're enjoying more, which is so cool, and I'm glad that our generation start to deconstruct that idea. But life always win at the end, and reality always win. And it was the first time one of my friends was in a country who is not directly in war, but all the ballistic missiles, they go through his country, and so they had some destruction debris. The thing arrived like next to his street and stuff like that. And yeah, it's fucking crazy to become older. I miss when I was a child, just eating. Yeah, it was good. It was really good. Just candies and water bottle and stuff like that. It was amazing. Water bottle, sorry.
Water bottles.
No, it's like, I don't think it was any better when, in our parents' generation or our grandparents' generation, for that matter. It's different. But what I feel is the biggest difference with them is that we all have a big case of FOMO, like fear of missing out. I think it's a big thing for our generation because things go fast. Like, we have very fast access to information. We have very fast access to people, to a lot of things. And we kind of got used to that. And now life happens just so much faster. Also because we have all these opportunities that maybe a couple of years ago people didn't have. And so now you want to fill your life. And I kind of feel like it's why a year kind of seems like 5. Because we fit so much into our lives. Like, if we all look at our calendars right now, like, if there is one night where we don't do anything, even a weeknight, we're just like, what am I going to do? Like, I need to find something to do. It's kind of like we want to experience things. We want to travel. We want to hang out. We want to discover places, discover foods, people, culture. It's, but you have to fit that into a calendar that is also very tight with, work and sleeping and showering and eating. Like, a day is only 24 hours at the end of the day. So, no pun intended. But so, you kind of have to fit a social calendar, a leisure calendar, a, personal growth or like learning or just being curious, you want also to allocate a bit of time to that in your day. But it's just really fucking hard. But the thing that takes the most time, obviously, is work. But it's just not something you can easily work around anyway. You can't. You make your own decisions, but at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do. Business is business.
Especially, I'm talking for me now. I know I take too much time on my phone.
Yeah.
And I'm doing things but that's the problem also. I think I could do even more things during the day, or
Right.
at least have some time where I really take a nap or do something really because my break time is being on my phone a lot of times, or watching a TV show and stuff like that. But yeah, it's awful. We spend too much time, as you said. Everything comes really fast. I mean, even the Reels system on Instagram, the Short system on YouTube. I mean, that's why also when we thought about, podcasts now are pretty fashion, but it's pretty weird, by the way, that podcasts in this world work a lot now. In a world where everybody wants something really fast and stuff, 1 hour, 2 hours video, they find a kind of a market for that. Like, there's people, a lot of people listening to podcasts. But still, I think a lot of those people, myself included, when we listen to a podcast, we at the same time doing something else. It's like more in the background noise.
True.
I'm pretty rarely listening to a podcast, like at least the whole hour from the beginning to the last moment without doing any other type of thing. I'm like listening, which is okay in a way, like if you want to listen to a podcast doing something else. But
Feel free to walk the dog, do the dishes.
But that's the scary part. Even when you're still doing something, I'm still listening to something, I still have to take my other phone, my computer. I mean, it's too much, guys. Take some time for yourself also, I think.
What you need to know is while he's hosting this show, on the side, he's making a grocery shopping list. Like,
regarding podcasts, I think indeed we're bombarded with so much short form content, but people really haven't changed much since the prehistoric ages, and we still enjoy long form content and conversations. And I think that's why podcasts are working, is because for so long there was nothing that filled that gap, that need that we have for just listening to a conversation. And it is pleasurable. Everyone likes a good podcast, I think, or most people do. Yeah. Anyway, so do we do it?
Yeah.
oh God, I'm scared. They had this look between them, like it is scary.
The tech girl knows what's happening.
You're in on it as well. Shit. What are we gonna
So
do?
we're gonna shift the conversation to a more intimate part of your life.
Oh shit.
And the question that you've maybe heard in other podcasts that you don't have to answer if you're not comfortable, but we are gonna talk about that kind of stuff. Go ahead, Thomas. It's your thing.
No.
It's your thing. You're the weird one.
Yeah, but it's your friend. I'm just gonna ask. Sorry, I'm just looking at my paper. Oh yeah, what's your body count?
I knew it. Actually, I read a paper that gave a certain number as an average sexual partner that a person has in their life, like if you look globally, and I'm pretty close to that number. So, not a big slut. Not that there's any problem with that. I kind of wish. It's just like people don't line up for me. So, but
seriously,
joke apart. No, it's a normal one, I guess, for a 30-year-old. I don't know. I kind of don't want to, name drop, but.
No names, guys.
No names.
That's the one
Nope.
rule about this podcast is no names. Yeah, how's your dating experience in Rome so far? If you can tell us anything about it.
I think coming to Rome was a big realization for me because I feel like I've always been quite picky, and very rarely in my life did I turn around on a guy and I was like, ooh, yes, I want to try and, get down with it. I don't know. How should I put it nicely? It's kind of gross. Sorry.
How do the kids say it these days?
I don't know. No cap? No, what's the thing? We're old as shit. Jesus Christ. It's getting worse and worse. Anyway, no, it's just here in Rome, honestly, I find people much more attractive. I don't think my standards have gone down in any way. It's just people are fucking attractive here. Like, I'm getting like from all over the room. Like, yeah. So I mean, I was dating an Italian for quite a long time. I think I have a thing for Italians. My first like primary school boyfriend, big word, not that interesting, was also an Italian. Same name actually, kind of weird. It's like circled back to, but yeah, it's just, I don't know. Maybe I have a thing for Italians. I don't know. But it's also very much linked to the fact that, you know, you get to a place and you're like, I have found my place. I am in the right place, in the right moment. And in Rome, I really, really, really felt like that. And I think it influenced also the way I see, you know, the potential dating life here in Rome. When I got here, contrary to when I got to the US, or I also lived in Germany for a bit. When I got to Germany, I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? Here in Rome, like I set foot there and I was like, I have found my people. And Rome, for those of you who are not very necessarily acquainted with Rome, Rome has this very specific accent / dialect. Very tough, very harsh, very like truck driver style. And it's very much the speaking style that I have in French. Consider yourself lucky that you're not getting to experience that. Very colorful, to put it in a nice way. And Romans have this very tough accent, and I just love it so much. And I love to play with the language. And I think through the language and talking to people, and, you know, you get this connection. So yeah, we'll see what this brings. We shall see.
Are you single right now?
Ouch. That one hurts. It's complicated. I'm going to give a very vague answer on purpose. It's complicated. I'm officially single. Let's put it this way.
And how did you met the one are you seeing actually, or the other one before? Like,
oh fuck,
is it
Joker?
like,
is there like call to a friend or like 50-50 or like
no,
skip the question? No, this
you,
one I can't answer.
No. I mean, no, of course not. And
I signed an NDA, so I can't answer that.
it's more about like, do you think a difference between dating at 22 and dating after? Like, was it on a dating app? Was it like with friends from friends? I mean, does it change? I mean, in general, not specifically with that person, but I mean, it's always different when you just arrive in a country because
True.
you don't know as much people. And also maybe there's a thing of you don't want to date at the beginning because you also want to make friends. So sometimes you like, should I start to? I'm directly in the friend group, in a new friend group of Italian people, like Erasmus people. Is it the best idea to like directly date one of the people there? Because I also want some friends, so I don't want to create drama from the beginning and stuff like that.
Right. Actually, I've never ever been on a dating app. It's just, I don't know, I never got the chance to, like, quote unquote. It's just, you know, I was in a relationship for a very long time, even before that, like, my previous ex and I were together for like 7 years. And it kind of happened. It was a beautiful story. Met on the beach, like very, like, it's the kind of story you want to tell your kids. It was a very cute story. We got together for a bit. We were doing long distance relationship, and then I moved to the south of France to be with him. And it just, you know, when you date in your early 20s, I met this guy, I was 18, and we started dating, I was like 21. In your early 20s, you're kind of in this like move where like everyone is kind of getting with some people, you're enjoying your youth, you're constructing a future, and so on and so forth. And once we had gone through all the big milestones of like buying a house, being together for a while, like first name basis with the parents, like, you know, all this kind of things where you get from the dating to the like strong relationship and things are expected of you as a couple. And I think when you get to that point, you actually take a good hard look at yourself and like, I know exactly what my life is going to look like for the next 40 years from the looks of it. is that something I'm okay with? And I wasn't. And it was right after COVID. I had an actual amazing job opportunity that kind of fell into my lap at the same moment. Yeah, to come to Rome. Not something I had even like thought about. It was never a dream to go to Rome. I had been to Rome once before that. So it was like post-COVID. I was having like an existential crisis. I was buying an apartment in South France. I was, changing jobs, kind of putting all my life on the table. And I was like, you know what? Fuck this. So we broke up with the person I was with. And then I took the job. I moved to Italy, finished the works in the house, and rented it. Best decision of my life, And now I'm like reliving my teenage years, not teenage, but doing all the shit that I think if I hadn't gone through like engineering school, which is pretty fucking challenging, especially the first 2 years in France, you have this prep school kind of thing. You don't live your youth fully. And then on top of that, you're in a like committed long-term relationship. When I arrived in Rome, it was like, woo, whole new experience, whole new canvas. Let's do something of it.
Yeah, I kind of see myself in what you're saying as well. I went through a similar kind of study path, and yeah, really tough. And it's true. It's in France, if you choose that kind of engineering path, you're expected to not really enjoy your youth until you finish your studies, or until you pass those first few years. And I didn't really enjoy my first core degree. It really sucked, and I feel like now I'm also doing the same, living my life in Rome and enjoying the things that I think or I imagine I would have lived in my my late teens or early adulthood. So yeah, pretty cool. Good for us.
Yeah, right. Look at us now. We're like pretending we're in our early 20s, but it's fun.
Again, there's no pretending that we're in our early 20s. We're just living the life that we're living, that we want to live at an age that happens not to be our early 20s. And it's
true.
Some might say it's a privilege to have a very chill life in your early 20s, because the reason why you're at the point that you're at now is because you made those sacrifices of going through really tough studies. Now you have a great job. You're working for the EU or for what do you do exactly?
What do I do? Oh God,
if you can tell us.
Yeah. That's pretty complicated to say. I am working for a company that basically supports entities that request grants and funding from the European Commission to develop energy projects. So hydrogen, ammonia, carbon capture and storage, wind, solar, these kind of things. Sounds very pretentious, but it's actually, I'm not going to say fun because that would be a lie. It's extremely rewarding. It's super interesting. And it has this flexibility where it's a European environment. You get to travel a lot and you kind of get to live wherever you want. Like, also have honestly an amazing company, and they let me do pretty much whatever I want to do as long as I bring business to the table. So I hustle, man, every day. No, but it's good. It's good. I'm super, super happy about it. But as you said, all these things don't fall onto your lap just by chance. You put the blood and tears and sweat, and then it pays off. It does pay off. And then you find something that is fulfilling, that is pretty honest money, and it's awesome. You're wiser, you're a little bit richer, you're not yet tired, but you get to live these youth years. It's actually even better, I think.
You said you had an apartment now in the south of France?
Yeah.
That you rent?
Yeah.
And we're gonna transform the podcast in a financial advice thing. And how did you pay already, or you have a credit with it?
I have a credit. Shit. Okay. I'm poor as shit, man. I didn't have, it's all hustling. It's all putting money on the side and catching the opportunity. COVID was shit, but in terms of like investing, it was the best moment to invest. And I was just lucky enough to have like these two timelines kind of match. And so I just bought the apartment because I wanted to live there. And then my life plans kind of changed. So I still kept it, but I have a huge loan on my ass for the next 17 years.
How do you feel about the ethics of owning apartments, of being a landlord or a landlady? Because in a sense, I've been wondering about this, because real estate happens to be one of the best ways to build wealth, but it also means that you're essentially speculating and profiting off the basic need of someone else, which is to have a house, to have a place to live. How do you feel about the whole concept of owning homes that you rent out?
I'm gonna sound like a fucking dictator, but it's like, honestly, like, you gotta do what you gotta do. I bought this place because I wanted to live there. I couldn't live there, and quite rapidly that would have meant that I would have had to sell it, which would have been a terrible decision. I didn't buy the apartment to kind of like, this is going to be my retirement, you know what I mean? I bought the apartment because I wanted to live in it. I moved in, there was no electricity, no running water, it was a fucking mess. And then I had to rent it because now I moved abroad. And buying an apartment in Italy, like, I could very much sell my apartment in France and buy one in Italy, but it's just, I mean, it's a challenge. Like, if you're familiar with French administration, you are, not even close to the reality of Italian administration. So it's not something that I want to get involved in right now, but definitely at some point, seeing as I'm really envisioning staying here for a while, that could be a potential question, to buy my own place here. But honestly, no regrets.
What neighborhood are you looking into in Rome?
In Rome? Now I live in San Lorenzo. San Lorenzo is a very lively place. It's a lot of students, so probably a little bit like younger in terms of like people I tendentially hang out with, but it's super lively. There are a billion things to do. The apartment I'm in is amazing.
Shout out to Blue Bar.
Yes, Blue Bar, our official sponsor, unofficial sponsor.
If you want to sponsor us, Blue Bar, we're open to any kind of business deal.
Yeah, actually, no, San Lorenzo is an amazing place to be. It's really not as sketchy as people say. It just is a very activist, young neighborhood. It's pretty central also. And if you have a car, and I do have my car here, I moved like from France with my car. It is one of the only neighborhoods where you can park for free. So, SL, yes, 100%. Love the place.
I felt like Rome is less sketchy in general than Paris. You said you live in Chicago, which can be kind of sketchy, I guess.
Yeah, that's a word.
You live in Reims, in French.
Yeah, not sketchy.
In France.
Anti-sketchy.
Anti-sketchy. And you live in Germany? Where in Germany, by the way?
Freiburg.
Okay.
Not sketchy.
Yeah.
Little house, Baden-Württemberg. Little house, yes. No, little city, not sketchy, kind of, family, students vibe, not sketchy at all. Rome is not that sketchy. Honestly, I think Paris is a much more... But like everywhere, there are some neighborhoods that you don't want to hang out, like, late at night as a woman by yourself. But I do feel like Paris, I felt less safe in Paris than I do in Rome. Maybe I'm a little bit more reckless, but it's not as crazy as people make it out to be, honestly.
Gotta stay safe at all times and stay aware. Yes.
Exactly.
Even the worst things can happen in the best of places, but
of course, you never know.
Well, what's next for you? Not, I don't want to put any pressure on you, but would you have any plans for the next few years in Rome? I assume. Yeah. What's up?
Well, the next big milestone is going to be my 30th birthday. in September, so that's something exciting to look out for. Then you know what? Like honestly, I don't really have a plan, which is kind of out of character for me. But I'm just, you know, kind of following the flow, trying to continue focusing on, you know, experiencing new things and putting in the time and effort in my career and like building relations and making friends here in Rome, and just all in all enjoying the dolce vita that in Rome you do experience 100%, and I kind of want to embrace that.
Yeah, Rome is a really cheap city, to be honest, to live in. Yeah, it's pretty cheap, you know. Cheap. Sorry, cheapy fuck.
This guy's from Paris. Don't listen to him.
Right, like you are out of your mind.
I mean, for a city like Rome, which is like maybe after Paris the most beautiful place on earth,
Yes.
it's cheap. I'm sorry, it's like one of the
After
European
Paris.
capital.
Such a Parisian.
No, I mean,
comment.
I'm sorry. After Paris, it's cheap to live in. I mean, it's an amazing city. It's that to eat a pizza like at l'Economica or like at a small restaurant for like popular
Shout out.
restaurant. Yeah, I mean,
We're
it's,
sponsored, guys. Shit.
yeah, we still have.
Product
There's
placement.
still a lot of places to hang. When you just instead of going to the center, you're going 200 meters outside of the center. You can eat for 12 euros at a table served, which is, I'm sorry, it's pretty rare. If you go to Germany, to Switzerland, to France, to maybe Spain, but to Nordic countries, to the UK, I mean, that you don't have
Right.
that experience. Even Poland now has become expensive. I mean, it's and for the quality of life that offers, I
Right.
think the best plan is get a good job here in Rome or like a remote job from every like I would say Western country in the north of Europe and work in Rome. I think that's the thing I want to do all my life, guys. Stay here.
100%. No, but it's not a cheap city in the sense that rent is honestly way more expensive than I thought. So I'm like, indeed it's pretty cheap to go out and do activities and like get drinks and so on and so forth. Like the aperitivo culture is everything. Is just like, I live for it. I'm here for it 100%. But it is a little bit expensive, more expensive than I thought. But again, exactly as you said, there is a big difference, for instance, between for the same job with the same qualifications and the same requirements, you get much less money here in Rome than you would in Paris, for instance, which it makes sense because you are more or less at purchasing power parity if you look at a big picture, because rent is not super cheap, but the rest of the living is pretty cheap, so you kind of find a way in the middle. In Paris, it's like, you know, expensive. Like you don't really have a choice unless you kind of know some places and so on and so forth. So on this I agree, but then it's when you move to Rome, you also have to accept that you need to look at the quality of life that you would have in Rome and not the quality of life you would have in Paris for the same amount of money. You can't really compare the two, honestly.
It's different city, yeah. It's a different city, I would say. It's completely
100%.
different. But Rome, it's an amazing place to live. I really believe it. One last question.
Oh, God.
Are you happy?
That's $1 million question. Honestly, I'm in a pretty good place right now. Spring is starting here in Rome. It's an amazing period to be in Rome. I feel like I'm where I need to be right now on a lot of levels. There are a lot of things that I'm still struggling with, but I think it's like everyone has its own, you know, like luggage that you have to carry every day, and you just try and make it lighter and lighter as you go on. But all in all, it's a pretty good time. Like 2024 is a weird year, though, I think, for everyone. All my Italians friends have told me it's because it's a leap year, so it has to be weird. And it's proven true so far, and I'm like, God, we're like not even like 30% done with this year. But Honestly, yeah. Are you guys happy? You just started a podcast. Like, it's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm better
Convincing.
than when I was at home, that's for sure. But I'm still working on it, to be honest.
Good for you.
I'm still working on it. But I'm on the good path, that's for
Right.
sure. So eventually I will be happy as fuck. So yeah.
Nice.
Exact same answer. Yeah, which is a good thing. It's a positive thing overall.
It is. Look at us. So, like, working on self-awareness and being, like, better versions of ourselves. Go us. Shit.
We're gonna make it.
We are. We should.
Well, guys, let's wrap it up. Thank
It's
you,
a
Coline,
wrap.
for sharing all
Thank you
these
for having
interesting
me.
things.
It was awesome.
And guys, thank you for listening. Have a great day or a great evening, and see you on the next episode. Bye bye.
Ciao guys, see you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you guys for having me. It's a wrap. Je suis oily as fuck.